Okay, good morning, everyone. So this morning I'm going to get into one of my favorite teachings, which is really relevant at this stage in the journey, this stage in the practice, as we're starting to move from these practices that are cultivating concentration and equanimity, settling the mind, and we're moving into more of a just being, or you could say moving towards a more non-dual way of meditating, one that is not just the little mind doing something, but a way of being present that transcends, yet it includes the conditioned mind or the little mind. So this teaching that I'm going to share comes from the Heart Sutra in Buddhism. It's one of the most beautiful and revered teachings in Buddhism, and I'm going to try and make it really relevant for our sadhana. Make it really something that we can directly experience in our own practice and our own life. And and it is really relevant for life. And synchronistically, something came in. Someone sent a question, an email this morning, or maybe it was last night, and I'm just going to sort of summarize it because I feel it's really relevant for what I'm about to go into, because this is something that it's universal. It comes up for everyone. So I won't say who the person is, but you'll know who you are, who sent it, and I know you asked to address it privately, but I think it really is universal. So I'm just going to kind of connect it to what I'm about to go into here. So the question is, how do we remain equanimous, with the cruelty in the world? There are all these things going on in the world. So, in this example specifically, the cruelty towards animals and their suffering, how can we remain equanimous with that? The character is struggling with that. And there's all these things going on in the outer world, these wars and ongoing struggles. How can we be equanimous with that? There are these injustices in the outer world, and beings that can't defend themselves, and they deserve to be treated equally. So how can we reconcile that pain, that we feel, the empathy? How can we, how do we deal with that? And isn't this, just some sort of spiritual bypassing? If we just sort of transcend all of that. And this is a really good question. And the truth is, the spiritual heart, that the Buddha talks about in the Heart Sutra, this non-duality that he lives, that one who is awakened lives, the spiritual heart embraces all. The spiritual heart embraces all duality, good and bad, the inner, the outer, self and other. And it does that by recognizing the truth, by awakening to the truth. And the truth is that, it's all the one playing all these different roles, all these victims and perpetrators, all the beings are expressions of this one. So it's not it's not about just moving, like raising our vibration so that we only connect to the good and only see the good. The good and bad, light and dark, are this play of duality, and it really, the way that things are characterized really depends where you are on that continuum. What's good for one is bad for another, so if there's a war going on, both sides always think that they're on the side of the good. There's no one who enters into a war and thinks that they're the evil one or the bad one. So it's this level of egoic consciousness where there is light and dark, good and bad, that we awaken from. We awaken from all of that. And so I'm going to go into this teaching, and then if we have time, I'm going to share an experience in my own journey that was really helpful for me as well. Because it isn't easy when when we feel, especially for people who are sensitive and empathic, we feel everything that's going on. And that sensitivity, we don't want to lose that sensitivity, but we can go beyond the the preferences, I guess you can say. Like yesterday, we talked about the preferences of the little self, and to me, the heart is, the spiritual heart that the great teachers speak of is sort of summed up by that, the Christian image of Christ with the open heart, and there's a knife going through the heart, and it's like to keep your heart open. We're sort of opening beyond pain and pleasure. We're opening, so it's like Rumi said, the wound is the place where the light enters you. Yeah, so to keep your heart open, we encompass all of it, the pain and the beauty, the horror and the beauty. And this is not an easy path for those living in the world right now. It's this is where it gets the path gets difficult. But at the same time, in the great way, they say, the highest truth is that the path is neither easy nor difficult, for one who is truly awake, for awareness. It's only hard for the little self. So, sometimes, we hear about, in the spiritual teachings, moving from the head to the heart. So what does that really mean? I think what is usually meant is that we, the little self is this limited sort of subsection of the one mind. So we're really going from the limited self to the unlimited self. We're going from little mind to the big mind. And like in the Hermetic teachings, they say, the all is mind, the one is mind, the universe is mental. So this entire world that we're living in is the one mind. So when we're limited, we have this sense of being a little self within this one mind. It's like the drop within the ocean. But if we drop that belief or that mind construct. There is an actual sort of apparatus that is in play here, which this is what the Heart Sutra talks about. The Heart Sutra, in Buddhism, they call it the 5 skandhas, or the 5 aggregates of mind, or the 5, there's sort of 5 discrete processes that they identify. And if we can make those processes conscious, because they're usually just running unconsciously, then we can sort of drop this reducing valve. We can unfilter. We can come into this big mind, or come into the spiritual heart. So this is called the Maha Prajna Paramita Heart Sutra. That's quite a mouthful. And so what this means is, the words mean that this is the highest wisdom, the greatest, or the ultimate wisdom, Heart Sutra. Prajna Paramita just means the wisdom of our true nature. So it's not, the limited wisdom that we accumulate through the mind. It's not something that can be learned from a book, or even from a sutra, not even really this sutra that I'm about to read. This sutra is pointing beyond itself, beyond the mind. So as I read it, just let it land. The conditioned mind may not understand it entirely, but just let it land beyond the mind. Yes, thank you. Yeah. So it starts out, Avalokiteshvara Bodhisattva. So this is the Bodhisattva of compassion. So in China, this is represented as Kuan Yin in the feminine form. Sometimes she's depicted riding on a dragon or a lotus, the lotus born. So this Bodhisattva of compassion, doing deep prajna paramita, clearly saw the emptiness of all of the 5 skandhas, thus completely relieving all misfortune and pain. So the Bodhisattva, the awakened one, making all of these mind processes conscious, awakened from suffering. So this awakened being is practicing prajna paramita. So this is a very interesting sort of phrase, practicing prajna paramita. So to me, that's what we're going for here. We're learning to recognize our true nature and abiding as that. Which to me is true meditation and true self-inquiry, simply abiding as the self. So in this sutra, the Heart Sutra, this being is already awake. They're aware of their true nature, practicing the ultimate wisdom. So just being aware. So this awakened being is speaking to one of the monks named Shariputra. So he says, "O Shariputra, form is no other than emptiness. Emptiness no other than form. Form is exactly emptiness. Emptiness exactly form. Sensation, conception, discrimination, and awareness are likewise like this." So these are the processes of the mind. These are referring to the skandhas, sensation, conception, discrimination, and consciousness or vijnana. O Shariputra, all dharmas are forms of emptiness, not born, not destroyed, not stained, not pure, without loss, without gain. So in emptiness there is no form, no sensation, conception, discrimination, awareness, no eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, mind, no color, sound, smell, taste, touch, phenomena, no realm of sight, no realm of consciousness, no ignorance, and yet no end to ignorance, no old age and death, and no end to old age and death, no suffering, no cause of suffering, no extinguishing, no path, no wisdom, no gain, and thus the bodhisattva lives prajnaparamita with no hindrance in the mind. No hindrance, therefore no fear. Far beyond deluded thoughts, this is nirvana. All past, present, and future Buddhas live prajnaparamita and therefore attain anuttara samyak sambodhi, which means the embodiment of that wisdom. So this is the living wisdom of the Buddha. Therefore, no prajnaparamita is the great mantra, the vivid mantra, the best mantra, the unsurpassable mantra. It completely clears all pain. This is the truth and not a lie. So set forth the prajnaparamita mantra. Set forth this mantra and say, Gate Gate, Paragate, Parasamgate, Bodhisvaha, which means gone, gone, completely gone, absolutely gone. The awakened heart is. Or sometimes it's translated as beyond, beyond, completely beyond, absolutely beyond. The awakened heart or the awakened one is. So this is pointing beyond the conditioned mind. This is one of the great non-dual teachings, a direct transmission from one who is experiencing samadhi. So it's pointing to this non-duality where form is seen as exactly emptiness. Emptiness is seen as exactly form. So we see, within form, that emptiness, the emptiness is inherent within it. It is it. They're not separate. It's like the mountain and the valley are one. They come into being together. They're not separate. So this duality, this separating, there's a part of the mind that says this is a mountain, this is a valley, but if we drop those concepts, it's all one. It's all one thing. So all duality is created within these 5 skandhas. You know, there's this perception process in play. This perception, this mind is always separating one thing from another. We create these ideas of things, and then we evaluate those things. We say one thing is good, one thing is bad. So this Heart Sutra is setting out these paradoxes for the mind, but they're not really paradoxes. They're just the truth. You know, when we drop these concepts, when we see how the concepts create these false separations, then it isn't a paradox. So there's no suffering, and yet there's no end to suffering. So for one who is awake, there's just the one awareness. You know, in the dream of the character, there's no end to suffering. There's no end to duality. You know, that play of form, samsara goes on forever. You know, the bodhisattva that is mentioned at the beginning, you know, there's a famous bodhisattva vow that one takes, and you know, upon awakening, there's this realization that it's all you. You know, so there's this sense that you know, the bodhisattva of compassion said, I'll continue to work to free people from suffering, even knowing that there's no end to suffering. You know, the suffering is endless, but I vow to awaken all beings. And this is what it means when awareness has woken up from the dream. There's no more you know, self-interest operating. You know, for that awareness, once we see the truth, you know, it's operating for another is the same as operating for oneself. There's just the same one consciousness in all these different avatars showing up in this human experience. So this realization is realized when there's a cessation of the identification with the false self, which is made up of these 5 skandhas. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about the 5 skandhas. And I'd like to be, you know, very clear. You know, this might seem like it's a map of the mind, and it is. It's a functional model. So there are many different models of the mind out there. We can sort of use different lenses to talk about the mind. So this is one lens, but I like it because it is a functional model. It's not just purely descriptive, but it is pointing to these processes that you can directly experience in your meditation, which is why it's really useful. You know, we can actually come in contact with these processes and make them conscious. There are these discrete processes that I'm going to describe here. So the first is called rupa, the first skandha. So this just means form or the body. So there's this body, this sense that we're in this avatar, and the sense that there's this character or being living in this world. So that's the first skandha. And on this body arises sensation. So this sensation is prior to any concept. It's not, good or bad sensation. Usually when we talk about sensations, we're talking about good or bad feelings. But what this is, the second skandha, it's called Vedana. And this is raw sensation. So for those who are familiar with the Vipassana teachings, the Asan Goenka teachings, the Uba Kin Burmese lineage that comes from, when they refer to sensation, they're referring to raw sensation. So Asan Goenka says, observe sensation at the root level, the subtlest level. So, often I use the mosquito example to explain these 5 skandhas. So, so if imagine you're meditating, there's a mosquito buzzing around, and but we can perceive the mosquito, the buzz, the vibration, prior to having any concept of it. So imagine that you've never experienced a mosquito. You have no concept, no memory. It's just a vibration. So it's like the first time you've ever experienced a mosquito. It lands on the body. Normally there's a reaction, but if it's the first time, there's no memory, there's no concept, and there's no reaction to it. It's just pure raw vibration. So this is Vedana. This is the root level of sensation. So this is the sensation that arises directly on the body. And this is a level that we can tune into. Quite often we're not tuned in on this level. We're a lot of our consciousness is in the other skandhas. In language, we're labeling. So we see the label mosquito. So we can train ourselves to be attentive to this layer of our being, making it conscious, because it's usually very unconscious, this level. We're usually just reacting. It's unconscious habit pattern. As soon as the mosquito is there, it's labeled and it's bad, and we swat it. So we can learn to inhabit this deeper layer of the mind, this direct connection to the vibratory field. And this is something that is cultivated over time. We gain this sensory clarity, this transparency of the senses. There's an example in my own experience where I was really at one point on my path really drawn to doing darkness meditation, meditating in a darkness hut. And I was really into Vipassana meditation at that time. And so I was observing the, just the flow, the free flow of that subtle energy. And there was, at one point, there was these huge waves started coming, which was surprising. I was just observing the body, and these huge waves started coming through. It was just an incredible amount of energy. And in that experience, I realized it sort of brought my attention back into the senses, because I had gone sort of deeper than the senses. So I came back into my hearing, and I realized a woodpecker had actually landed on the darkness hut, and these waves were actually the woodpecker pecking on the metal roof of the darkness hut. So these waves, when we're at this deeper level, this pranic level, it's moving through all the senses. It's not separate from the senses. So there's this, a sense in which it's moving through the seeing faculty. So this energy you can see, you feel, you hear. It's moving through the sense organs, but yet somehow it's all one. It's all one field of vibration that sort of underlies these senses. So the next, the third skandha is called sanya, and this is the process of the mind where the mind forms the perception of things. So things come into being at this point. And this is that part of the mind that is like a knife. It's separating one thing from another. So there's this field of phenomena, this field of vibration, and the mind separates one thing from another. So this is where memory is formed at this level. This is where if a mosquito, this buzz that is just a vibration, somehow we're taught that this little thing is something separate from the rest of the world. This is called a mosquito, and so it's a separate thing. And even at this level, so we haven't labeled it as good or bad. So we've simply, the mind has simply created a concept here, but we've not yet judged it as good or bad. So instead of just this field of vibration in sanya, there's this discrete process of the mind distinguishing things. And this is what creates the human experience. We have language, we have this experience of being these separate beings. So in order to play this game, this is part of the game. So it's not a bad thing, but it's again just operating unconsciously. This unconscious part of the mind is always dividing, always separating one thing from another. So if we can make that conscious, then we can start to become free of the bonds of the sense of I that gets entangled in these levels. So we can make these processes conscious. And once they're conscious, then they can drop away. Or as it says in the Heart Sutra, we realize it to be empty of self. We realize that the I, that I thought doesn't have to be entangled with this phenomena. So we see these skandhas all empty of self. And so we come next to the fourth skandha, and this is the level of the sankharas or samskaras. So the sankhara is the Pali word, samskaras it's the Sanskrit word. And these are my preferences. This is where I say, these things that have been delineated in the previous skandha are labeled as good or bad. So this is where the preferences live. So I have a preference about that mosquito. Usually we don't like them. So this is where reactions and habit patterns come. So we react based on those preferences, based on past experiences. So this is the craving and aversion that is often talked about on the path. So with the mosquito, this would be an aversion. Most people would have an aversion. But it's important to understand that, anything that is arising, that if we have a preference towards it, if we label it as good or bad, there's still a sense of I entangled with it. We're not free. So there could be, if the mosquito is something that we have aversion to in our meditation practice, maybe there's some bliss arising, a beautiful, blissful state arises, and a preference arises to that. Maybe there's a beautiful feeling of love in the heart that arises, and we have a beautiful, complete experience of that, but the sense of I can become entangled with that as well. So we can try to hold that feeling. And that's, again, the ego grasping. So, in order to be free, to allow these feelings and states to come and go freely, we let go. We realize this process of mind to be empty of self. So these are essentially, the main processes in the conditioned mind. We get, these sensations arising, then this part of the mind creating the sense of things, and then we judge them as good or bad. And then, the final skandha, the fifth skandha, is called vijnana, which is there's a part of the mind, and I talked about this yesterday, there's a part of the mind that is like a camera that observes all of this phenomena. So this is the fifth skandha, vijnana. Sometimes it's referred to as consciousness, but it's not the big consciousness. This is the consciousness of the mind. So this is consciousness of things. So it's part of duality. So this, you could say, is the witness. It's the witness of what is being witnessed. Yeah, so this, these five skandhas are the totality of the dualistic mind, the dualistic world. So we have these four skandhas, which are all the phenomena, and then we have this sense of this witness that is observing all of that. And it doesn't matter, what we're experiencing. Even in dreams, there are these, the same constituent parts, these same operations of mind that are in play, these five skandhas. So when we awaken from the five skandhas, we awaken from all levels of dreaming. So as we evolve on the path, as we grow, this spiritual mechanism sort of evolves inside of us. We grow these, this inner lotus that's described in the different traditions. The chakras. There's the energy flowing up the chakras. We can. There are all these developmental stages that can grow. The opening of each chakra is like a whole world to explore. So we can grow these organs of higher perception, When we open the third eye, or we can open the heart chakra. So not the spiritual heart or the self, but the actual center, the energetic center, which has its own intelligence as well. Just like the third eye, it offers a different sort of interface with a part of reality. It's the way that we can directly experience the one, or God, you could say. But yet it all comes down to these aggregates of mind. They constitute this filter. It doesn't matter what stage of that inner lotus we're at in terms of the self structure. So there's a image I'm going to share here, which I really like, and this is called a figure ground reversal. And some of you, I often show this image when we're doing self-inquiry. So this is the classic image of the two faces. So when you see it one way, you see these two faces looking at each other. But then if you shift your perception, you can see a vase here. So this figure ground reversal is, it's kind of what we come to when we're exploring the five skandhas. We're, usually in life we're focused on the phenomena. So we see one layer or one level of that image, but then when we start to inquire, who is here, who's aware, who am I, then we start to observe that fifth skandha. We start to observe that part of the mind that is watching all of it. So that figure ground reversal is when we come to the witness. We become aware just of this spaciousness, the stillness, the silence. And, and in some of the meditation traditions, they kind of stop there. They stop, like there's a peacefulness of abiding, hanging out as that witness. But it's possible, that witness is still part of the five skandhas. It's still just part of the mind, so it might be relatively much nicer to be able to hang out as that witness, and we can kind of plateau there in our meditation journey. But what we really want to do is inquire directly into the one who is aware of both. Who is aware of the witness and the witnessed. Can we directly experience that one awareness, and to see all of that as empty of self, or to disentangle the sense of I from any of that, this consciousness that is moving here and there. It's there are these different forms of meditation, like in Buddhism, shamatha and vipassana are the main two, and shamatha is coming to this tranquility. There's a settling that happens in that, but then we can go deeper. We can start to really go into the insights that come from, really it's self-inquiry, like who am I? These insights that we get in meditation, that the self really isn't a thing. Sometimes it's anatta is one of the three great insights. And it doesn't mean that there's no self. It just means that the self isn't anywhere. It isn't a thing. But it's the meaning, the awakening to that is non-dual. So there's no self, but there's no other than self. It's or the impermanence of all phenomena. We start to directly experience that impermanence, that it's all arising, passing away, and it's just this, this little mind that is there's this inherent unsatisfactoriness in the little mind. It's always wanting something other than what is. And that's really, the essence of these five skandhas is, seeing how we're always looking for something. Even coming to a retreat like this, that little mind might be hoping for something, hoping for something other than what is. And but it is that dissatisfaction of the mind is the filter. This is the entanglement, that sense of I. So in Buddhism, they talk about this idea of, they call it dependent origination, or dependent arising. And this is one of the fundamental things, fundamental teachings, explaining kind of the nature of existence, the interdependent nature of all phenomena. So all things arise in dependence on multiple causes and conditions. And and there's no end to that. There's no end to this web that has no weaver. It's like a dream web made of form, sensations, and perceptions, and the preferences and the witness. So all of that, just is as it is. And upon awakening, it still is as it is. On one hand, nothing changes. Everything. It's like we transcend, but we include everything that is. It's like, that saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. So from one perspective, nothing has changed. But from another perspective, everything has changed because the sense of I is no longer entangled in that. It's waking up from that dream of being that character. So one of the analogies I like to use is, for those who've played VR games, if you put on the headset, you go into the VR game, and suddenly you're in a different world. You're in a different avatar. So, the first time I ever did that, it was amazing. You're in this different being, different body, and so when you're in this world, who are you? When you put on that headset, who are you? Obviously you're just playing a character in that realm. And the first time I experienced it, I took off the headset, and I was back in the Dan body, the Dan avatar, and I had the same feeling for the rest of the day, moving around in this avatar. It's just the same. It's the one consciousness that was playing a different character, a different role. So it's just a different form, a different vehicle to play in. So who are you? That consciousness, is what is always present. It doesn't matter. This body can change forms. We can have these incredible experiences. This sense of I can flip to anything. We can wake up on all different levels. But the one who is the knower of that experience, that true awareness, primordial awareness, which has no quality, no place, no location. The location, when we put on that headset, the location changes. Everything changes. So what is that consciousness that we are? There's no descriptor that will suffice. We can only directly recognize that which we are. And so I'm going to end. I started out, I'd like to come back to what I started out with. This, how do we move through the world, with this truth, with this non-dual truth? How can we make this really relevant for our life? And, how can we accept all that is? And, we can, the deeper we see and realize this truth, the more we awaken, the more of all that is that we can say yes to. And for me, I'll share an experience that I had in, this is probably the deepest Dharma teaching that I've had on my path. And some of you who've been to the center, that we sometimes use helpers in our journey, which in this case, it was a plant medicine called iboga, which for me, it's a beautiful meditation tool. It just sort of accelerates the purification of the self-structure. Somehow this intelligence in nature sort of synergizes with what we're doing in meditation. So this was an iboga journey where, it's sometimes called a flood dose, where you take quite a bit of this stuff, and there was this incredible kind of dissolving, but also a nausea that was coming, very deep nausea that started to grow in the body, and this nausea got stronger and stronger, and it became more than just a physical nausea. It was it was almost an existential nausea. It went beyond me. It went beyond this character. It was like universal. It was suffering in itself, and it somehow propelled this what I am. This is the mysterious part. So the sense of I actually flipped out of this character in this experience, and other lives started to become experienced. And so there was this experience of I as all of these other characters, and the suffering of these beings and these lifetimes. And so in each of these lifetimes, there was this character who wanted to be happy, wanted to be free. And in one lifetime, there was the character thought, I'd like to have a family, and that'll lead to happiness and fulfillment, and the whole life was experienced in whatever this state was, and the life led to suffering. And then another life, there was maybe I'll be a monk, I'll just meditate and that'll free me from suffering. And that life led to suffering. And it was one life after another, all these different beings. And there were beings that were they were very dark. Some of them were evil perpetrators of great suffering on others. Other lifetimes, it was the victim, having things done to that little eye. And so this went on and on and on, and the suffering just kept going, and it seemed like there was no end to it. And then in one of these lifetimes, awareness woke up. Awareness woke up from that character. And in that moment, all of the characters were liberated. All of them were free. It was the same awareness inhabiting all of these characters. And what was left from that experience was this sense of really understanding that if we are searching, in the outer world, if we believe our happiness is contingent on anything in the external world, we will continue this cycle of suffering. But when we wake up, when we find out the truth of who we are, what we are, then it really is all a play. And even the horror, even when we were that victim or the perpetrator, all of it, it's just almost like a magic show. It's like a divine game. And it's we're here to play this game and say yes to this game, and allow all of it. And this one awareness is here for the show. So I'm going to we'll take a little break and we'll come back for our meditation. Thank you. So we'll take a 5-minute break and then we'll come back for a group process. Thank you. Okay, so welcome back, everyone. So yeah, we have an opportunity now to connect. If there's once again anything coming up in your practice, and as we go deeper into this retreat, sometimes at these retreats, it's usually very front end loaded with questions and answers. And as we go deeper into the retreat, sometimes, we won't use this whole hour and a half for questions. So I like to say sometimes this stillness is actually the best teacher. And sometimes the questions just sort of resolve themselves in that stillness. But that being said, yeah, and if there's also, things coming up in the practice, but sometimes people um, will get insights as well, or things, if there's a feeling to share your insights as well. I usually, for me, it's like the thing that is important in that it's not really about sharing experiences or just telling stories, but things that will serve the group. If there are insights or things that you feel will really serve the group, then please bring them forward. And I love when it's like the Dharma or the that whatever that is starts to come through everyone. It's really beautiful. So yeah. So Tayama, are you there?
I am.
Awesome.
Doris,
You're going to be queuing people up. Yeah. Thank you.
you got it.
Awesome.
Thanks, Doris. You can unmute.
Yeah.
Oh, hi. Oops. Am
Hi,
I
Doris.
unmuted? Hi, Daniel. So I have a question about the dyad. When I inquire and nothing comes up. And so then I go to, so then I'm wondering, do I report whatever does arise, even if it doesn't arise out of the inquiry? Maybe it's from the past, or maybe it's something that's bothering me. Um, or should I just wait for something to come out of the inquiry itself?
Hmm. Yeah, so you don't really have to look or manufacture anything, but if there sometimes there are things that are just below the surface, so if something is bothering you, or maybe there's a something in life that it's just waiting to be cleared, and so we can just really examine what's there, just in the mind. Like it might just be bubbling up right under the surface. And so we don't want to just fill the silence for the sake of it. So we want to just hang out in that space and just let it come on its own. Yeah, so it's really very simple. There's nothing to do to make that happen. You're just literally just looking at what's happening in the mind and body and reporting that, and that's it. But sometimes, when we're hanging out in that stillness, when there's not much happening, that's when we really see that, maybe there is something that the mind is holding back. There's something that it doesn't want to face. Maybe there's a little something there, that becomes evident in that stillness. So that's when we really want to attune to the subtle aspects of the mind.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Vernon, if you could unmute, that would be awesome.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, Vernon.
Um, I I like the dyads. I realize a lot of questions, so I'll try to keep it focused. The experience that I'm having, which I think is obviously really common, I'm looking at someone, and we don't do this typically in society. If you look at someone too closely, they look away, they get upset, they don't like it. So the dyads is a really great opportunity to really go deeply into the connection with another human being. And there's a sense of consciousness coming from here, going out, and then the other person conscious coming in and meeting sort of in the center space of consciousness. And it's sort of a psychedelic space. It sort of expands and or it contracts. It does certain things. So I guess the question that I have is that there appears to be a field of consciousness that we're entering into, and that it's not in here in this head or that head. It's sort of everywhere. I'm kind of merge into this field of conscious. Is that correct?
Yeah, I like the way you're describing that. And that field, like we actually at our in-person retreats, we do a group exercise with the self-inquiry where sometimes we'll have an entire group focused on one person. And so it'll be tell us who you are. Everybody's
Wow.
focused on that one person. And when you're that one person, you really feel that field. You feel the field of consciousness in the room, and it's incredible. It's almost you can almost taste it. Yeah. So I like
Right.
that. I like that description. Yeah.
That'd be great. And then I had this idea that rather than the idea that we possess consciousness, it seems to me that consciousness possesses us. That there's only consciousness, that consciousness is sort of infuses itself into all form.
Mhm.
That we're that it's all that we're possessed by consciousness. Would that be a correct way to look at it as well?
Well, so who is the we? Like if I am possessed by consciousness, am I separate from consciousness? Like
Yeah.
who are you? That's the question.
Right.
So the like it's the little self that wants to possess something.
Right.
So
Yeah.
sometimes in the language of religious language, it's like I have a soul, and so it's like with the little self will think there's this little me that has some other thing that's a soul, or so I think when we really start to explore that, we can you just go into it, just see what's true for you, like find out directly, who are you, are you the consciousness, are you aware, the awareness, or are you that character, or are you aware of both, and we want to directly know that, without figuring it out in the mind, but a direct experience of that.
So I agree. I think it's like language, and the way I was seeing language was that Vernon, have consciousness, but what I'm experiencing is that there's not that I have consciousness, but consciousness. I am consciousness, conscious. So I'm the consciousness, not the Vernon, and the consciousness, as I said, sort of field that goes. It's everywhere. That's how I'm saying it. So that I'm possessed by consciousness. So I'm the consciousness that's possessing this, not this possessing consciousness.
Hmm. Yeah, the words are tricky and will never be satisfactory. Literally never. That's why if it could be conveyed in words, it would be. I would love to write that down, but
So and then a related question. This is sort of complicated enough for the mind, but it's also simple. You describe in one of your talks about meeting the seraphim, and I recently got involved in the Michael Harner shamanic course, and there appears to be realms of other beings and other entities, and that when we die, we move on as well. So that more than just we're consciousness, we there is also an aspect of this reality where there is a separateness, some kind of separateness that carries on past life, and that lives in past lives, and that lives after this death, or after the death of the physical form, and that these beings can be met with and invited in You can merge with them and so on. So the question is, what is that? What is it? What is it that is separate? So it's not that we're all one. We are one. So there's a sense of unity. But beyond that, there is also a separateness that carries on and that can be met, and that the beings that some of the people in our group are meeting with, I can integrate with one in particular. I don't know whether he's enlightened or not, but he can do amazing things. They're meeting with beings that they're saying are Buddhist, famous Buddhist monks who have lived in past, hundreds of years ago. They're enlightened beings, and that they're communicating with those beings. So, what is that? What are those realms, and what is it that's alive?
Yeah, yeah, that's okay. That's a good one. So, yeah, I'll tell you what I know, and because it's a question that So first of all, that personal story that I shared in the Iboga journey, experiencing all of those lives of other beings, life after life. When that was experienced, it made me think, is this like experience? This is consciousness just experiencing life after life after life, and it seemed clear that this is how consciousness operates, and it's all the one consciousness. And what I realized, in that experience was that whatever this matrix is, it's designed for this, and it's the one consciousness experiencing everything. So from that level, from the awakening level, it is all the one consciousness. So there's no I, like this little Dan character doesn't have a bunch of past lives and that it lives, that it lived. It's the one consciousness experiencing all of it somehow in this time-space matrix, it's like a bubble. It's just, I would say it's more like simultaneous lives, all being experienced by the one. So that to me is the like I've experienced that. That's the truth. The consciousness experienced that. So, but also within this matrix, there are, to me it is a lot like a VR game, because and we're like on level one, in this reality here. So this is the mental and physical experience, and it's possible for energy to as we develop this avatar, we level up, and we are able to access these other levels of the game. But it's still the game. It's still Maya. These are all levels of Maya. All of this stuff about how, like the sense of I can flip into these other levels. We can not only interact with other beings on these levels, but the sense of I can actually flip into them and become them. We can literally wake up, in an archetypal form, which in the Buddhist tradition they talk about this intermediate realm. So the Dharmakaya is like the pure consciousness awakening as to the one, but and we're in this Nirmanakaya, which is this world of form, but in between there is this Sambhogakaya, which there are all these possibilities basically, and these different forms are possible in different realms, different levels. So to me, it's all simultaneous. It's all the one. But at the same time, the one can play this game of hide and seek on all of these different levels. And have all of these different experiences. So it's the creative possibilities for it all are just endless. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know if
There's
that
a
answers
lot
your
of
question,
questions.
but
So there's a lot more questions than that, but there's a whole line of people lining up different questions. So thank you.
yeah.
Thank you for that.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keith, you're up.
Hi, Keith.
Unmute.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you for this retreat, and thank you so much for that teaching this morning. I experienced that like this truth arrow hitting me straight in my heart center, and it was really powerful. And I thank you for that.
Mhm.
And I really like your model. And that's my question. That fifth skandha, the witness. My question is that equivalent to the Atman in the Hindu teachings?
No, so it would be like vijnana is the mind consciousness. So that it's part of the self structure, whereas the Atman is like it's the true self. It's just the true self. It's the waking up to that which is eternal, that which is even when this mind and body drop off, it's that which is realized in Turiya, or the fourth state. Or Nirvikalpa Samadhi, whatever you want to call that, that primordial I amness that is eternal, ever present, beyond this realm of form. So that's what would be the Atman.
Let's see. Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you.
Sandra.
Hi.
Sandra. Hello.
So my question is question about the question you answered in the morning today about the suffering. So you talk about samskaras and how they are formed by incomplete experiences. Something I always felt very true, to feel things to the deepest. So when you're faced with witnessing, in this case, animal suffering, that is right here in my backyard, basically.
Mm-hmm.
My intuition and my first response is to avert my eyes. So the aversion is very, very strong, and it's by trying to protect my myself by just trying not to notice, look the other way. So that's, I think, the question is that not am I not really, should I I don't know how to reform that question, but trying not to build samskaras on top of the ones that are already there, trying to strip them away. Do you just make yourself witness? I understand the concept of the, totally, it was great explanation. How do you still deal on a daily basis with the feeling of witnessing it? Do you just look and let it kill you each time?
Yeah. Yeah, well, so there's different approaches, So as with everything, I can give sort of a relative answer and an absolute answer. So awakening is, to our true nature, will free us from that, So the awakening, doing the self-inquiry, that's one way, just to know the truth of who you are, that it's all, once you awaken from that play of form, then it just cuts that sense of suffering, that identification with it. But on a relative level, we can also, there are a lot of different things we can do. Like in the tantric system, they would expose themselves. Like they would sometimes take the monks to areas where people are being, dead bodies are being burned, or putting themselves into these situations where they could sort of meditate, facing their fears, or sometimes on the flip side, put themselves in situations that are pleasurable and facing that pleasure without identifying with it. You know, so these, or in you know, more modern psychology, they have you know, trigger practices, you know, for things that trigger us. So gradually, you know, sitting with those triggers, like really maybe starting out small, you know, like maybe not going, you know, into the slaughterhouse and just you know, sitting there and seeing the worst things happening, but just starting small, and if we can identify how that you know, that trigger is working, you know, within the five skandhas, you know, like maybe starting with small things, and you know, feeling how that moves in the body, and you know, we can do this with everything in life, you know, everything that, you know, like if I have a trigger and, you know, somebody insults me, or you know, that I have aversion to something, you know, if I can feel it, you know, on that Vedana level, at that root level of energy, feel that energy moving, you know, and then the energy, you know, moves into the next skandha. So there might be a thought forming, a perception forming, and then, you know, a reaction. Like if somebody insults me, maybe there's like a contraction in my energy somewhere in the belly, or whatever it is, or you're seeing something happen, and, you know, with an animal, and you feel exactly what's happening in the body, and just making that whole process conscious. And then if it's made conscious, then, you know, whatever emotion would normally come up, we can catch it, you know, and it doesn't just sort of take us. Then you know, there's space around it, and we can sort of train that. We can you know, wire that in, and then, you know, when things happen, you know, the thought, there's always a thought or belief involved when an emotion comes up. So if we you know, believe that you know, whatever it is, you know, if somebody insults me, I have a belief that might be reinforcing, you know, it's triggered something in me. So, but if I can stay with the sensation and not get caught in that belief, then the energy will literally just arise and pass away, and eventually we can just let things move through. You know, like there's been studies actually done with lamas who this is an amazing study they did with lamas who they've all did 10,000 hours of meditation or more, and they literally got to a point where you know, even things like a startle response, like shooting off a loud gun noise, you know, would move through on an energetic level, and it's like they reformatted their reptilian brain almost by doing this kind of meditation, and it just brings a, you know, the result in your life is it brings a greater sense of ease then, just allowing that energy to flow through. So that would be, you know, on a practical kind of practice level, Vipassana is amazing for that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
Noah.
Yes. Hi, Dan, and thank you for this beautiful thing we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to share some things that I experienced. So in some of the diets, I was even sharing that I am feeling like something felt triggered and did not feel safe. Like a small part of me did not feel safe. And the story here was that like there's not like real deep presence that I am perceiving another person. That was my story. And then I had a meeting in a dyad where I like boom, it was like a like someone hit me, the presence of that person. So this part in me like really felt that it was getting like it was longing to be seen, and it got seen, and something really like relaxed. And that really allowed for an experience of so everything my eyes see, all the objects, became secondary in my experience, and what came to the forefront was this invisible awareness, like awareness being aware of awareness being aware. And then like, so it was crystal clear, the emptiness, and that was on the foreground of experience, and then everything else was on the background. So it's a it was a very nice, interesting experience.
Beautiful. It sounds almost exactly like the like that figure ground reversal. You described it perfectly. Yeah, that there's a shift in perception.
And I even used those words as I was relaying it, like now there is perception shifting, like there's a shift, right? Yeah. So I was using those words as well. And I think something like one reason I also wanted to share this with the group is that because this person was really leaning forward, really intently, like with this full being, wanting to be present, and that could really be felt. So to me, it felt so important, the quality of the presence that this witness was bringing to the table. It did wonders for my experience. So I wanted to share that part
Thank
with the
you.
group.
Thank you. Yeah, that's so. Yeah, I want to highlight that. You know, when you really show up for your partner, when that witness really shows up, you know, and is really holding space, it's amazing how powerful it is for the inquirer. So, yeah, it's really a gift when someone shows up in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
And so, thank you. And I want to continue a bit. And then in because this opened up further unfolding. So in meditation today, another like thing clicked. I have always like trying to push away the ego and all the activities in the ego and the self-structure. But somehow today there was just equanimity with whatever is, and even allowing all of the activities of the ego.
Beautiful.
So not putting up any struggle with the ego. And that have never really sunk into me before, that everything that the ego does is also me. It's also a part of me. So allow the full expression of the ego with everything it does.
Yeah.
And that really opened up to like see all these, like so many of these. Someone is saying something somewhere.
Sorry, I'm just gonna mute whoever that was there. Yeah. Okay, that's
Yeah,
okay.
but that opened up because so what I wanted to share was this lived experience of having no fight whatsoever with the ego, like seeing that, okay, so I, awareness, am the grown up, and I could see the ego as my little kid, which I love fully with all its different expressions, and fully allow them. It doesn't mean that some of the expressions I might have to step in as a grown up, maybe, and like not act on, like we're not going to eat ice cream for dinner, but I will still fully allow my ego and love all parts of it. And this really made a beautiful unfolding in my
That's beautiful.
experience.
Wow, amazing. That's a huge insight and huge turning point.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. When we
yeah,
stop fighting ourselves, you know, that because that ego just it is the fight. You know, it just is resistance. So if it's resisting itself, if you know, if we're trying to get rid of it in some way, that's actually the thing that you know keeps us in this endless struggle. There's no end to that struggle. Yeah, and unless we realize that you know it's perfect as it is, and to me that ego, that little self structure, it's you know, it is like caring for a child or caring for a pet, you know, it's like you take care of it, it's part of you, you know, and it's beautiful as it is. And we don't want to, you know, kill the ego or you know, destroy it in any way. We actually love it, and it's part of us. But the only thing that changes is we're not, the sense of I is not limited to that anymore.
Exactly. You said the two things more that I wanted to share. That what became like from that level of identification, like in awareness, in lack of a better phrasing for it, it was seen, but there is nothing here whatsoever to fear from the ego. Like, why would I step away from a cobra if I know that the cobra is actually only an earthworm?
Mm-hmm.
Like, when that can never hijack my identification from that level,
Yeah.
I have no need to separate myself whatsoever from this ego thing. And the only thing that would do that would be the ego itself trying to create separation from itself because it cannot tolerate itself. So that was so clearly visible there from
Beautiful.
that perspective.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's a there's a famous insight in one of the traditions, and it's the, you know, mistaking the rope for the snake, you know, and we, as soon as you know that the snake is actually a rope, then you know, that's it. The illusion is dropped, right? And that's it. The fear, you know, that we have is it's just a mistake, you know, it's a mistaken um, identity or you know, it's exactly like mistaking the rope for the snake. It's and
yeah.
yeah.
Now I forgot the last thing, but I think I've shared what I wanted to convey. So I think it's all very, very beautiful. I think what you're doing is beautiful.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Yeah,
Thank you.
amazing insights. Thank you.
Thank you, Noah. Serge.
Oh, thank you. Tayama and Dan. My question, you probably already answered it, but I still don't get it. I'm going to give you, you mentioned like to be conscious of something to be able to transcend it. I just want to give an example. Like this morning, I came to the kitchen and I saw the dishes that weren't done by my roommate. Uh, there was this burst of heat in the body, and the thoughts, oh, here comes again. He didn't do the dishes, and I was just so uncomfortable with the situation. So how do I do at this level to transcend that, so that doesn't really matter to me? That's one example, and the other one, while I'm meditating, I'm having all these thoughts, even though I'm having an object of concentration and focus or attention. I can see all these thoughts popping up, like, oh, your boss didn't want to give you the time off so that you could take the retreat. You must get even with him when you get back to work,
Mm-hmm.
and that sort of thing. So I hope I made my question clear, Dan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Actually, like for me, they're very related, the two questions. Um, so, you know, those thoughts that are coming up, you know, there's you know, sort of evaluation in those thoughts and preferences. So, so if we you know, if we can really see the operation of this conditioned self generating, you know, watching it at, you know, at a deep level, actually how it works, you know, generating these thoughts. It's like some external thing comes in, you know, whether it's in your outer life or your meditation practice, you know, there's dishes in the sink, and the mind generates a thought, you know, it's like bad, you know, dishes in sink, bad. and past history, all of that, whatever story is attached to that, right? But there's sensations in the body associated with that. And we can, before the thought is generated, we can catch it in the body. We can sort of short circuit this whole, or interrupt this whole skandha system at different levels, and usually at that sensation level is where we interrupt it. So if we can just keep our attention on sensation, feeling what's happening in the body, rather than going to that thought. And this is just a skill. This is just something that gets wired in. The deeper that wiring goes, the more of our daily attention, or that mind, the vijnana, fifth skandha consciousness, will be on the body rather than going to the thoughts and the perceptions. So it's an ongoing thing. It takes a lot of practice to wire it in. Yeah, but it's an amazing bridge, and when we have that awakening, there's a flip, and all of it's just like it's not even me, I'm just watching this little character spinning its wheels or doing its thing. So there's always the relative and absolute aspect as well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you.
Cindy,
Okay, hi Dan.
Hi.
2 questions.
Sure.
So during meditation, and it's still going on, and I just say I'm focusing on the breath, and it's going well, and then there comes the thoughts again. That's a visual, that's a verbal. You mentioned about identifying how is it coming to me,
Mhm.
and I can't stop that. So then I'll go into the uh, Vipassana body scan, and I start my head and work down and back up the back. Is that good to do that? Because during the meditation, I'll get uncomfortable. My back hurts, something within the meditation, as well as the thoughts. So by doing the body scan, is that a proper technique on trying to maybe stop all that from happening? It's frustrating.
Yeah. So it sounds like you're jumping around from one technique to the other. Sort of when it gets uncomfortable, you switch to another technique, or
Yeah.
is that kind of it? Or yeah.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, if that kind of thing is happening, if there's like and some people really have aversion to certain techniques as well. There's certain techniques that sometimes I kind of joke that whatever technique you have the most aversion to is probably the one that you need the most. But if you're jumping around like that, I would say, for working for the 2-hour period, it can be really productive to just pick one technique and stay with it. Really go deep with it. Sometimes, like in the Vipassana world, S.N. Goenka always says, it's like digging a well. You don't want to dig a little bit over here, a little bit over here. You want to, like, just go deep, go straight down with one thing. But the thing is, a lot of these techniques are kind of doing the same thing. So to me, they're like different tools digging that same well. But if there is an aversion, or like trying to get away from something, then I would say just notice that pattern in the mind, and just stick with one. See how it goes.
And hopefully move past that and allow it, and then we're all good to go. So
Yeah, and like when there's a lot of stuff coming up, like thoughts, and it isn't easy when we really go deep with these techniques. Sometimes we'll you know, we might have a beautiful sit, and then the next sit, it's like all hell breaks loose in the mind, and there's, you know, actually it gets really crazy at some of the deep levels of mind. It's almost schizophrenic in there, you know, when we start to really bring these unconscious parts of the mind to the surface. And it can freak people out sometimes, you know. Sometimes we'll think we're in a very Zen place, and then this deep level of the mind comes to the surface, and that can be just part of the process. It's not a bad thing, you know. We don't. It's not like we're failing or regressing in any way. It's actually we're just bringing into consciousness something that was always there, and we're just seeing it so that it can become more integrated and more free. So
Wow.
whatever comes up is good, you know, in this practice. Just allow it fully. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's exactly, I've had peaceful and I've had crazy meditations. And so you just kind of laid that out for me, like everything's fine. And I know
Yeah.
that it's all
Yeah.
as it is.
Yeah.
So,
Perfect. That's it. Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
When we were talking about the animals and abuse and stuff, and it made me think of death. Now I see death as just a continuation of this physical plane, and it's a life that never ends, I guess I can call it. But then, and I know that. So when somebody close to me passes away, I understand that, and I'm actually celebrating them for their movement away from here, from this duality. But then something happened yesterday that I got drawn back into the sadness, not of their death, but feeling the empathy of who was affected by it.
Yeah.
And I couldn't let that, it's just like, that's wrong. I know how it works, but I really got all pulled into the sadness of feeling the other person's grief. And I wasn't quite sure how to even deal with that, or if you even have an answer.
Yeah, you know,
Wait.
it's interesting. So on the next film that's about to be released, there's a little story. It's a little Zen story, and it's sort of about this exactly. So I'll just share it. So there's a Zen teacher who his wife passes away, and you know, he really loves his wife. And one of the students asks him, you know, are you sad? Like, were you sad when she passed away? You know, are you experiencing grief and sadness? And he says to the student, well, of course, I'm a human being. You know, of course I experience sadness. And the student is surprised, and he's like, well, you're a Zen master. I thought you were supposed to be beyond all that, you know. And the Zen teacher says, no, you misunderstand. You know, the sadness, you know, I just had a complete experience of that sadness when it came. You know, it's just this is life happening, and of course, you know, there's a sadness when someone dies, but the difference is, you know, that sadness is like clouds, you know, passing. So the sadness came and went, but the vastness of my being always remains, the truth of what I am.
Right. All right. That's nice. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
You, Jay.
Are you, Jay?
Hey, Dan. It is. I'm so thankful to be here. This is so good.
Good to have you here.
Yeah. So when you showed the figure ground picture, it really landed, because that's been my experience basically for the past 24 hours or so. But the thing is, it's not flipping. It's like, it's that point in the 3D picture where you're looking at it and it hasn't flipped yet. And so as I inquire into the nature of the I, there's definitely all of the good stuff. Like there's like energy moving and joy and all that. But we're going for what is the I.
Yeah.
And it feels like just the I feeling, as Ramana Maharshi would call it. It's like feels established in the spine, and I'm just going after it. and paying as much attention to the experience of that.
So when
I'm
you
just
say,
curious.
yeah, when you say the experience in the spine, so like, you're talking about like sensations in the spine? Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that like, I'm assuming those sensations, like, they change from time to time, right? Like it's
Yeah.
not all, yeah. So so what we're really going for here is, who is aware of that changing phenomena, right? So not the phenomena itself, but who is the knower of that phenomena? Can we directly experience, that awareness that sees that,
I'm trying.
Yeah. Yeah. So
I'm trying. I'm trying, but yeah, a lot. It's
And
hard.
what happens if you don't try? Because who is that I that's trying? The doer trying to make something happen. So what happens
Yeah.
what happens if that one fails completely and gives up? Then what remains? Who
It's funny.
remains?
Yeah, I don't know why. It's funny.
Yeah.
But it's funny.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. How does that feel? That laughing.
Feels light.
Good.
Feels like a joke.
That's awesome. Yeah. That's good. That's awesome, UJ. Mm. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man.
That's
It's a
awesome.
joke.
Yeah, that lightness, it's a heavy burden for that little I to make that happen. So when you drop that, it's pretty light. It's pretty awesome. Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Mhm.
Anna.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Anna.
Hello. I wanted to ask you one thing. I am at the beginning of my journey through this search. I don't understand how can two things get along together. Sometimes I heard that you told us that concentrating on one focus in meditation is a way to free energy. But some other times you tell us to leave things as they are. I don't understand how these two things can get along. Thank you.
Yes, yes, thank you. Yeah, so the preliminary techniques in meditation are just there to sort of prepare the mind, so that if the mind, at the beginning of the practice, if the mind is very busy, focusing on the breath, and these techniques can be very helpful to just help to bring us into presence, to settle the mind. Because if the mind is too chaotic, it's very hard to just be. So those are preliminary techniques, and then once the mind has sort of settled and we're coming into presence, we can stay, without thoughts interrupting constantly. Then we can start to let go of all that and just be. Yeah, and we, when we do these practices, for our attention, somehow this whole mind-body structure starts to change as well. So it's like when we start out with anything in life. If you're a musician, for example, at the beginning, when you're learning all the techniques and the practices, there's a lot of doing, there's a lot of focus and activity. But then as you develop as a musician, you're not practicing that anymore. You're not, you're just the music is just becomes sort of a part of you, so somehow we transcend, but also include all of what we're doing with those techniques. It somehow becomes a part of us as well. So it's there. It's like there's, we're this wiring and all of that has created this sort of opening within the self structure is still there.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you also for the technique that you showed us yesterday when you invited us to identify the thoughts as visual or auditory. That was very useful because you distinguish the space as a ground, a background in which the thought were the figures.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps this is a way in which we organize our perception, but also our psychic life. We think to be the figure, while we are, most of all, we are the ground that sometimes become figure.
Mm-hmm.
It was very useful.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Yeah, and
Thank you.
yeah, and that whole figure ground, there's the one who is aware of all of it, so yeah, so who is it that sees that duality?
Yes,
That
it was strong, a strong image. Thank
Mm-hmm.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're married. I'm sorry if I said that
Oh,
wrong.
hi. Hey, that's fine. Yeah.
Hi.
Hi. So I apologize for not having a camera. I'm just paranoid about privacy and stuff. So apologize if that's like a rude. Um, so I have like okay, I have one question. I just pretty much so I cannot breathe when I try to focus on breathing. It's not like cannot, it's just like I'm experiencing just like shortness of breath and just feel like very congested in the chest and very narrow.
Hmm. And
Like
do you feel that all the time or just in the meditation?
just in meditation, like normally it's fine. Like right now I'm fine.
Mhm.
But it's just during like when I try to focus on my breath,
I see.
then I experience just like like it's just I feel like I don't get enough air almost. And
Mm-hmm.
that's very distracting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So your question is how to deal with that?
My question is that like some sort of like a physical thing? Am I not like sitting right, or is it
Mhm.
like is it something
Yeah.
I can do about it?
Yeah, it's something that comes up for some people, and when we really put attention on the breath, um, it's interesting. It is almost paradoxical in some ways. Like this in the meditation traditions, they usually say, let the breath be natural. But as soon as we put attention on it, it's like the mind controls it. The mind starts to take control of it. So usually it's anything but natural, but when we do that, when the mind is on it and the mind creates a contraction, where we feel that resistance is exactly where consciousness needs to go. So it's actually it's not comfortable. The body will feel like it's not getting enough air sometimes, and there can be even a little bit of panic there that comes up. But there's it's an opportunity to really trust the body, to really trust the intelligence of the body. Nobody has ever at a meditation retreat, as far as I know, run out of air or not, stop breathing entirely. Like the body will always take that breath. So, so I would say it's an opportunity to just really learn to trust the body, let the body breathe, and
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it can be. I know it's uncomfortable. It's not a easy thing, but it's very instructive. Yeah.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so I do tell myself that like you're not gonna die, that's for sure. So
Mhm. Yeah.
I think it's impossible to actually choke
Yeah.
yourself to death. So
Yeah, if you
you
just try and
yeah, try
stop
to
breathing,
hold your breath. Yeah,
yeah, try and stop breathing and just wait, and the body will
yeah.
always take the next breath. Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I also would just want to make a completely personal comment on regarding like since we're talking about animal suffering and stuff. So I do feel like in just like humans are pretty much breeding billions of beings into existence just to kind of consume them and their unnecessary torture and just for the taste pleasure most of the cases. Um, I know the perspective from non-duality when people say there's no good or bad, all the suffering is just from your egoic perspective. I do understand that, but at the same time, I feel like a lot of people say that. First of all, I don't believe there are actually many people achieve completely non-duality, right? That's a very rare thing to achieve. So I feel like when people say that, that's kind of just like a coping. Like if they still support the industry, for example, I feel like they're not being sincere about the issue, right? They're kind of using spirituality as some sort of a excuse to actually continue what their ego wants, which is to consume what they want to consume.
Hmm.
Um,
For sure. Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
I think another point is that I feel like you can still be understanding the play, the non-duality, and still have access to compassion and love and try to help, right? You don't have to just be, I'm okay with everything, therefore I don't do anything. I feel like you can still have conscious action to actually, there are things to help human consciousness as a whole evolve, right? Because I feel like a lot of suffering actually coming from the unconscious collective.
Hmm.
Just my
Absolutely.
personal comment on that issue. So
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I think, like spiritual bypassing is sort of it is like an excuse to continue to do the things that the ego wants to do, and not face the difficult things in our unconscious. So yeah, I think when we really truly know who we are, we know who everyone else is and what everything else is as well. So, you know, true compassion flows from that truth. That is actually the source of true compassion. You know, not just a morality that we impose with the ego, but a true compassion is recognizing the oneness in everyone and all things.
I think that's all. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Cindy.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Firstly, it's such a blessing to be here. I'm very honored and blessed and humbled to be having these experiences. Just a few observations from me. Yesterday, I had the blessing of I slipping through and experiencing the oneness. And It was an amazing experience. When I woke up this morning, I woke up with a sense of disappointment because I could no longer experience that oneness, nor could I remember the exact experience. And the mind came in to say, perhaps you just imagined that, or it was inauthentic and you made it up. And as my day progressed, what turned out to be a very busy day, a day that would normally have had me highly stressed, was actually flowing with presence. And I came to the realization that experiencing the self is not necessarily the big, wow, energetic shifts and bells and whistles and colors and everything else that one thinks it is. It is in your everyday life where you actually experience the presence. And in experiencing that presence, I was able to navigate through what would have been a very stressful day with grace and ease and flow, where everything just worked out as it should be. And my responses to the day were very different to what previously would have been my reactions to such an experience unfolding in the day. And I think that can only be explained by a little part of that oneness rewiring me to be present in a very subtle way in my day. And that for me was a beautiful realization that I don't need to be in this meditative state all the time to experience this oneness in a practical way in my daily life. So I guess that's my first observation. And the second observation or paradox that I was initially dealing with in the first 2 days of this retreat was my understanding of the law of attraction. So, as a human being, perhaps I was utilizing my little I to try and manifest my highest and best life by trying to utilize the law of attraction. And that was coming from a place of preference, a place of the little I, almost thinking that it knew what was best for me and then trying to manifest what I thought was best for me. A realization that has come to me is that in feeling the oneness or the divinity within, and being open to the experience of equanimity, it creates a sense of freedom. And in that freedom, the vibration changes so that what we do attract through the law of attraction is experiences that allow us to have that freedom, which ultimately could translate to the flow or to the highest and best good. So not necessarily packaged the way the little I would have thought it to be, but still manifesting it nonetheless. So those are just the two realizations that have come up for me.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah. you know, that law of attraction one, I love, you put it very well. You know, the little self, whatever it thinks it wants to manifest, you know, sometimes I refer to that law of attraction as actually a suffering accelerator. Because it actually, you know, when that little self finally gets what it thinks it wants, you know, and then it realizes, oh, that's not it, you know, it's on to the next thing and the next thing, you know, then there's a possibility of getting it. Then it's like, oh yeah, okay, maybe all of that isn't it. Maybe there's something deeper, and we come more into life, into presence, and life is just flowing. It's just happening, and yeah, you described it beautifully. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, both insights are very profound. Thank you.
Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
My question is about meditating with eyes open or closed. When I'm doing meditation, I having trouble focusing. There are emotions coming, sadness, and I allow all that, and it's advancing wonderful. Thanks for your tools. Now, with eyes open, I found the diet very powerful. I had a several times a strange feeling, like zooming out, looking all around me, things getting blurry, at the same time getting more sensitive about what I'm feeling inside. I felt my heart, my teeth. I was looking on the corners. I saw the air, and it was like I was scuba diving, and being sensitive, calm, and warm heart. So nice feeling. Now my question is it valuable to explore this part with open eyes, or is it better to concentrate on the I am, or on the interior, and close the sense gates and take the step backward? You see what I mean? Is it opening up? Is it useful at this stage, or not yet?
Yeah, that's a good question. So exploring the I am first is you know, the I am, you know, it's not inner or outer, you know, so it really, you know, whether we're, you know, with our eyes closed or open, you know, whether we're on a cushion or with a partner, we can explore that I am. You know, that we can inquire into who is here, who is aware. It doesn't matter, you know, but there are times, I would say there are times in our practice where closing the sense gates, going inward, to me, like there are times where it's almost not a choosing. You know, it's like almost like a magnetic pull comes sometimes in our practice, where attention just goes inward, and there's things happening. You know, there's an intelligence where that energy is moving and it's alive, and our attention, if we just don't choose, then attention sometimes just naturally goes there. So I would just say, just notice if there's any choosing happening, and what happens if you don't choose. You know, just let it happen, and just see, get curious, see what happens. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sharon.
I just saw Alina's chat about supposed to speak after Dan, so I'm going to yield to her right now, if that's okay.
That's okay, Sharon. It's your turn. It's okay. Alina can go next.
Well, it's a quick one then. Thank you. And thank you, Daniel. I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying. I'm very tired, so I'm getting resistance to continually asking, what is aware of me not wanting even to ask the question anymore, or to state the imperative that I want to directly experience who I am. So I basically just go back to asking myself what is aware of my resistance?
So yeah, so that question, so directly experiencing isn't, sometimes at the beginning we start out asking the question, who am I? Who is aware? And the mind, will do that. But at a certain point, it's good that the mind is getting tired of doing that, because eventually, if the mind gives that up, then awareness, it's more just recognizing the awareness that is already present. So the asking of that, or giving the imperative, whatever the mind is doing there, that can actually be dropped. So that tired mind can actually just totally take a break. It can, from whatever it was doing, it can actually just relax and just more directly, inquire just what is the awareness that's already here. I don't have to inquire into it. It's already here. Just regular presence, just the sense that I am, and just be with that, and let the mind have a little holiday. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Elena.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Dan, and thank you for the opportunity to speak today and to share my experience. I wanted to share my experience with you during meditation, the current meditation. So I was able to enter the state of this beautiful energy, bliss, or I don't know how to call it, in very fast, in about 10-15 minutes today. However, there were so many different levels of elevations, like many of them. And with 5 or 6 levels of elevations, I was able to recognize the energy, and I saw some images like Maharaji, Sanayanda, Ramana, Sadhguru, and even Buddha. So, and then on the background, I heard the voice, oh, I'm able to recognize them, so my mind is still working. I'm wondering, what was that? And are there different levels of bliss? And the last few 2-3 elevations, I don't remember the numbers, but it feels like that. I enter nowhere, just beautiful, strong, that white, I believe it's white energy, soft, which was wrapping me around. And I really didn't want to come back. So when the bell was rang, but I'm sorry, when the bell rang, I didn't really want to come back. And my last question is how to come back from that, because I'm not sure that the next time I will want that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. So so what the levels that you're talking about, and it's different for different people. Sometimes as we move through these stages of meditative absorption, the jhanas, which I'll be talking about, I think tomorrow or the next day, it's the phenomena presents differently for different people, but essentially there's a freeing of energy, there's a dropping away of levels of mind, and sometimes that energy can connect us with these different levels of mind, where it almost archetypal levels or beings will show up in our our inner vision. And yeah, and as long as, as long as, like, if the Buddha shows up in your meditation, in an external form, there's a saying in Buddhism: if you meet the Buddha on your path, you have to kill him. So if he's in an external form, like Buddha just means awake. It just means you awaken. You awaken to your own awareness. So if it's an external Buddha, it's nice. You could hang out with him or whatever, but don't give it too much importance. It's just part of the phenomena. To me, these are beautiful things that they're signs. Almost like higher parts of the mind. Giving us little symbols and signs saying you're kind of on the right track. You're going in the right direction. Yeah, so that's what I would say about that. And as for the not wanting to come back, what would happen if you don't come back? Yeah, maybe find out. Yeah.
Much I'm having so much heat now, this energy, and it supports me with the answer. I believe it's how I feel the resonance with what you say. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Blair.
Hi, let's see. So my question was, in the dyads, I really want to express presence and like a passionate in like holding space, but I'm being told that no expression can come through, even through the eyes. So it feels like I'm being told I'm not allowed to be present and hold space. And so then it feels uncomfortable to, like when I'm the responder, to look at the witness because I know that they're like struggling to maintain no expression artificially. And I'm like, oh, that's distracting and uncomfortable. And so that just clearly is not how it's supposed to be working. So what can be expressed? Like how can we hold
as the witness? As the
witness?
So you use the word artificial. So why is it artificial to not react or not evaluate with your body language and your expression? Why is that artificial?
Well, maybe I can clarify the question. How can we express presence? Because to me, that's not neutral.
So to me, if I can just be present with you, in the present moment, without evaluating what you're saying, without giving you positive or negative feedback, but if I'm really listening to you, if I really see you, I really hear you, to me that's the most loving thing that I can do, is to just see you.
And when you say
without evaluating you, without giving you my feedback from my little character, but to just see you and let you fully be you, let you fully express whatever wants to come from the deepest parts of your being.
And so you used the word let, like really let you, which seems to be pointing at like a difference between, like in my mind, I think I'm stuck on wanting to be allowed to do that. And this concept of I have to keep my eyes like totally neutral. And to me, the really being present with you is not neutral. That's what I'm stuck on. It's like
Right. So
neutral
there.
to me has a dullness to it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So maybe drop that word neutral, and
Okay.
maybe a better word is to just be fully present, to be fully there for your partner. Holding space. With your entire being. So not like a disengaged sort of aloof witness that doesn't care,
Thank you.
yeah, but you're
Oh,
there, like knowing that your presence, you're like a mirror for that person. When you don't react, then it allows them to fully, whatever's going to come up, if you react to what they're saying, then they might shut down, or they might see your reaction if it's positive, and then they might go more in that direction, trying to please you in some way. So if you're just totally neutral, your heart is open, you're there for them, you're fully listening to everything, then it really allows everything to unfold for them.
oh, that is a relief. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
Maria.
I thank you all. Before I ask my one question, if I just wanted to comment on something Claire just said to Dan. So for me, it was the dyads we started, my wife and I started a couple of weeks prior, and then we took your past class. And for me, that was also very much like the reversible figure you showed, because I'm just going to say, as Italian, I'm animated. I'm more frequency animated than anything because I talk with my face and my hands.
Mhm.
They always used to say to me, if I tie your hands down, you can't speak. And that's what used to happen to me.
I must have a
And
little
that
of
was,
that too. I get going sometimes. Yeah.
and I also noticed that that caused a lot of discordant energy in my relationship, because my face expressions, without even speaking, I would watch then the other respond back to my face as opposed to what I was saying. So doing the dyad was amazing, because I had to learn, why am I doing that? What is coming up through all of that? And the last few I did with unknown folks, let's just say unknown humans, as opposed to just with my wife, was amazing, because I started to see them being very energetically animated, couldn't even look at me. And I was holding a very neutral space, but I was feeling. I used to be very highly intelligent. Now I know nothing. I just have this beautiful wisdom. So it's just feeling them, like what Claire was saying. What I've learned to do is just allow my eyes to soften and not think of what they're saying, feel what they're saying. And in the past day, came back to me towards the end. In her dyad, she was saying, and you're just going to stay there and keep feeling what I'm saying. You're not going to make any motion. Okay, I'm just going to keep going. And it allowed them just to unfold.
Mhm.
And I caught myself, I was ready to say something. And I was like, no, this is about her, and you need to, protect yourself. But it was amazing to see the transformation, just holding that, but also feeling on my end. So it's not that you're just being an object.
Mhm.
It's a wave.
Mhm.
It's a wave. Either one's a particle or one's a wave, or however it may be. So it's like the ebb and flow in that.
Mhm.
Um,
Beautiful.
so
Yeah, I love that. Mhm.
the other thing I just wanted to ask you, you seem to be using the word awareness and consciousness interchanged. Is that what your definition of consciousness is?
Yeah, so sometimes, yeah, like pure consciousness and awareness, I use those interchangeably. So sometimes, like that part of the mind that we were talking about in the five skandhas, which is sort of, it's like a consciousness of, so there's a duality there. That mind consciousness, sometimes I'll use that word, which is, it can be a little confusing sometimes, but when there's consciousness of, or awareness of, or a witness of, that's always duality. But when it's pure consciousness or pure awareness, that's the self. That's the, you know, the awakened one that, you know, the teachers are pointing to. Yeah.
So would it be fair to say if we are consciousness or awareness, we are animated by frequency, or is it the light animated by frequency to be in the human to animate, as you could tell my hands?
Yeah, so that's something you can go into in your dyad practice. Like find that out. You know, is awareness animated? You can explore that. You know, I could give you my opinion, but it's much better if you find out directly. Yeah.
Good. I appreciate that. That was amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. I think that's a wrap for today. If we didn't get to your question today, please put your hand up first tomorrow and we'll get to you tomorrow, or you can send me a message in the chat.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone. That was amazing connecting, and we'll see you this afternoon. Bye-bye.